about the real wet work that was done to get rid of President Nixon. Mike Davis, Justice Boasberg, tell us what the bid and the ask is right here, the back and forth between Grassley and Boasberg. Boasberg's doing one thing against the Trump administration. They're trying to get some clarification. There's also some discussion of him coming in and answering certain questions. And he's basically telling Grassley, Jordan, everybody, go screw yourself, sir.
Let's step back, Steve, because I'm going to give you a speaking articles of impeachment on D.C. Obama Judge Jeb Boasberg. Remember, this was the former chief judge of the D.C. District Court. He was also the FISA court judge who authorized the illegal spying on President Trump with the Russian collusion hoax, the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. And Boasberg knew that this evidence was politically tainted, yet he continued to let the Obama Justice Department, working with the Hillary campaign, spy on President Trump, his campaign, even when he was in the White House, making up the Russian collusion hoax to cover up Hillary Clinton's corruption, right? And we've talked about that at length. This is the same Jeb Boasberg in 2023 with Jack Smith and Arctic Frost, who illegally gagged these telephone companies in violation of clear federal statute, which says that if you spy on a Senate office, you have to disclose that to the Senate. And Boasberg put in a gag order saying that Jack Smith can do this and the telephone companies cannot alert the Senate in violation of federal statute. Jeb Boasberg is now leaking out through one of these court officials that, oh, no, I just didn't know that these were senators' phone numbers. Well, why the hell is he authorizing spying and gag orders if he doesn't know who they're spying on, if he doesn't know who he's gagging? I mean, he's clearly not being honest there. You also have Jeb Boasberg, who went to Chief Justice John Roberts early on in this Trump administration and said during this judicial conference to these judges, to his fellow judges, that with no basis whatsoever, that President Trump was going to violate court orders and they need to stop him. This is the same Jeb Boasberg who opened up his courtroom and it exposed an ongoing military operation where we are expelling the worst terrorist in the Western Hemisphere. And Jeb Boasberg illegally ordered these planes turned around when they're over the Gulf of America, exposed this operation. Again, we saw the thousands of military intel and law enforcement officials in El Salvador to take Tren de Aragua and MS-13, the most dangerous terrorist in the Western Hemisphere. We didn't have that same security footprint in America. Thank God these planes did not turn around. And now Jeb Boasberg, who says that we can't get into the deliberative process of judges, is demanding that the Justice Department and DHS provide their deliberative process to Jeb Boasberg under the threat of contempt of courts and jail. And the icing on the cake for Jeb Boasberg for this impeachment, there was this Natalie Rose Jones, this crazy New York City woman who made these vicious threats against President Trump. She traveled down from New York City. She was caught outside of the White House with a bladed object with the intent of coming down to the D.C., to the White House to hurt President Trump. A liberal magistrate judge in D.C. correctly put Natalie Rose Jones in pretrial detention, but it was D.C. Obama Judge Jeb Boasberg, shockingly, who overruled this magistrate judge and freed this would-be Trump assassin from pretrial detention. So she's walking the streets now with an ankle monitor. I mean, Jeb Boasberg has a dangerous pattern of extreme lawlessness. And this is why the House Republicans, this is why House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan and others need to move forward immediately with articles of impeachment against this Jeb Boasberg. This guy is a dangerous, lawless, partisan actor in a robe, and he is trying to violate the separation of powers right now by having the Justice Department and the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, explain in detail their deliberative process. So Jeb Boasberg can hold these officials in contempt of court and throw them in jail. This guy needs to be stopped. This is why the War Room Posse right now needs to go to article3project.org, article number 3project.org, take action. And the number one action item is to light up your U.S. House representative and both of your home state senators. The top left of the action page, click on Jeb Boasberg, the bald guy in a robe, and light up both of your home state senators, your U.S. House rep, and tell them to get moving immediately on impeachment proceedings. Now, Jeb Boasberg can say that he's not subject to congressional oversight. He doesn't have to respond to oversight because of the separation of powers. He certainly has to respond to an impeachment court in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. He absolutely does. He cannot claim the separation of powers when you've invoked impeachment. So the House must move forward right now with impeachment on Jeb Boasberg.
Article 3, and Bill Blaster over with Grace, if you can highlight Grace, Jim Jordan. Here's the point I wanted to make this morning on this. Grassley, Jordan, people have tried to work with him, and he's just telling them to screw off. He's not going to participate in anything, not just oversight, just questions about how some of this stuff has evolved. You have to go to impeachment now. People say, well, that's too dramatic. It's too much. Many of the rhino Republicans in town are sitting there wetting themselves, saying you can't do that. This is a federal judge who used to be head of the D.C. court. He's calling our bluff. He's not going to participate in everything. He says, hey, the separation of powers, screw you guys. I'm going to keep doing it. You have to start an impeachment proceeding to actually get him in front of somebody, start asking some questions under oath. Am I wrong in that, Viceroy?
No, they need to turn up the heat and turn up the heat right now. This guy is a very dangerous, lawless partisan. He has been behind the Russian collusion hoax, working hand in glove with Jack Smith, the Hillary campaign on Arctic Frost. I mean, this guy is the Forrest Gump, the Forrest Gump of the lawfare against President Trump, his top aides, his allies. This is not a neutral judge. This is a highly partisan, highly lawless, highly dangerous federal judge in D.C., and he needs to be held accountable. He needs to be impeached. The House needs to eliminate his judicial seat. You can just get rid of a judge's seat, so you can do an impeachment through appropriation, essentially. They need to hold this guy accountable, make an example out of him, so these other federal judges understand when you politicize and weaponize your judicial office to take a side in the political fights, you are acting very lawlessly and very dangerously, and it's unacceptable.
Mike, one more time on Article 3. I got a whole nother bigger story even to get to than this. But Article 3, where do people go right now to assist in the effort to hold Judge Boasberg accountable, sir?
Yeah, this is one of the most important action items the War Room Posse can take in many months. It's article3project.org, article number 3project.org. Take action. The top left action item is tell Congress to impeach D.C. Obama Judge Jeb Boasberg for keeping terrorists in America and acting as a politician in a robe. This is crucially important. This takes about 4 minutes to send emails to both of your home state senators and your U.S. House rep to light them up on social media and to do patch-through phone calls to their office. It's really important that the War Room Posse do all of those things today.
And Jim Jordan also, the chairman over at the House Judiciary, who would initiate proceedings, which we need to do before Christmas. We need to get rocking and rolling on this. Mike Davis, you got a huge piece up. You're coming off of victory. You've got a huge piece up in Fox. Where do we stand with preemption? Where do we stand with the big tech companies? There's all kind of rumors going around. There's going to be executive orders that understanding that they got smashed twice by a populist revolt of MAGA, that they're now looking for other alternatives. Can you get us up to speed on everything that's happening there?
This is where I am most proud of the War Room Posse, is on this AI amnesty. 4 months ago, these AI oligarchs working with Senator Ted Cruz tried to sneak in AI amnesty into the one big beautiful bill at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were very, very close. And then the War Room posse lit up both of their home state senators, their U.S. House rep at article3project.org, and this thing went down 99-1 with Ted Cruz voting against his own bill like at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, they're kind of like the Freddy Krueger of legislation. They just won't go away. And so they're back, right? They're back this time 4 months later, and they were trying to sneak in this AI amnesty and the must-pass National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. We've been on them for 4 months. We've been calling them out. It seems like after the War Room posse lit them up the last several days, particularly yesterday, I think they're getting ready to wave the white flag of surrender, but it's really important. A second action item is to light up both of your home state senators, U.S. House rep today, to say no AI amnesty in the NDAA. They may try to do in some other must-pass legislation, maybe some legally dubious executive order. But we put out an opinion piece today in FoxNews.com calling them out. And this is important. We're not opposed to federal preemption for these AI platforms, so long as the federal preemption has federal rules of the road, and so long as we protect the 4 C's that we've talked about for many weeks on this show: children from online predators, including AI teddy bears who speak in sexually explicit terms to kids, these pedo bears, so long as we protect conservatives from being canceled by Google and Meta, like they've done for so many years after they had Section 230 immunity and AI amnesty. We want to protect communities to make sure that we don't, for example, have AI data centers in residential neighborhoods, that we don't jack up water and electrical bills, and then pass those bills on to working class Americans to subsidize these AI platforms. And we also want to protect creators. The 4th C is creators from copyright infringement, to make sure, for example, that Steve Bannon's War Room, the shows you do on here, don't just get copied and pasted into these AI machines and you don't get paid. So this is crucially important. It looks like we're going to win again, but let's run through the tape.
Mike, hang on for 1 second. Just hold you briefly after the break. Mike Davis, the Viceroy, with us in the War Room.
We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Mike, this is going to be relentless. One of the things I'm concerned about, we'll talk about this later in the show, is that you've got Jensen Huang and David Sachs. They're arguing to sell all these chips to the Chinese. The pressure they're trying to put on us, because, as you know, I'm with the Viceroy always 100%. On this one, even on the preemption, we have to have a national discussion. You've brought up the most important thing, I think, of all. We have regular order for a purpose. This should go through regular order. This has to be a national debate. We have to hear both sides of this because there are compelling arguments on both sides. However, it's got to be of whole cloth. We can't look at all this pressure that's coming on people to do this, just let these guys go, because we had a Sputnik moment with the Chinese Communist Party with what, deepthink. And at the same time, we have the arms dealer Jensen Huang, we have David Sachs. All these guys are pushing the White House today to sell the most advanced chips we have to the Chinese. You must cut the Chinese Communist Party off from everything. You must cut them off from all chips, training, education, being in our national labs, trade deals, benefits, World Bank, all of it. You got to cut them off. If you think they're in an arms race, do what our the giants that came before us did on the Russians with the nuclear weapon. You don't give them anything. You don't give them any help. And this technology may be more dangerous than nuclear weapons. So the other side of the equation has to come in here. But what you're saying is absolutely correct. And I mean, you work like crazy and your team worked like crazy over a week. And I think gave the White House a 100-page kind of first starter. It was a shot across the bow to say, guys, if we talk about the 4 C's, here's kind of a template we can start with. And I think people are in shock to say, well, this is kind of complex. And the reason is it is kind of complex. And it has to be done in a deliberate fashion. You can't bum rush us into essentially giving these oligarchs just free reign over everything. This has to be, if there is a national security emergency, then someone has to come forward and explain that to the American people. Right now, outside the war room, you're not really having a discussion about the depths of this. In fact, I'll tell the audience, if you really, in Washington, D.C., over the last couple of days, this has been the fight. Of course, there's been 100 stories and everything else, but this has been the fight that's gotten all the lobbyists, all the law firms, all the crisis communication people against this kind of small populist reaction that came an overwhelming populist reaction to say, no, we don't want this. And all the senators ran for the Hill when the American people stood up and said, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but we want, if it's got to be the states to step in, then let the states step in. We're not giving amnesty until we know more information. Is that a good summary of where we are?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've been in meetings with David Sachs. He's a really, I actually like him. He's a really good guy. He's like this billionaire South African tech guy from the Silicon Valley, very successful, very smart tech guy. And I think he's trying, in his mind, to do the right thing. And it's Mr. Sachs comes to Washington, or Mr. Sachs goes to Washington, and then he has to deal with crazy people like the Viceroy, Mike Davis, in these meetings. And it's an interesting dynamic. But look, we're working with them in good faith. Like you said, Steve, we provided a lot of very substantive proposals for legislation on the 4 Cs. I think they're taking this seriously. They're taking the War Room Posse seriously. I think they understand now that they can't just jam this through in the NDAA like they tried to jam it through in the one big, beautiful bill. I mean, if they had the opportunity to jam it through, I think they would. But I think that with the Article 3 project and the War Room Posse, they're dealing, these tech guys are dealing with the reality of Washington, D.C., which is the politics. You have to get 60 votes in the Senate to pass any piece of substantive legislation. You have to get the House to sign on to it. You have to get the president to sign on. You can't just jam it through. Look, I think the tech people are just spoiled. They were used to not having to fight very hard for their legislation. They got their Section 230 immunity almost 20 years ago, back in 1996, that prevented from the states and the local governments from meddling with the tech industry. And I think we've learned the mistakes from that, where we have the $1 trillion big tech monopolists, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, that have crushed competition, shuttered small businesses, and canceled conservatives and others with whom they've disagreed. They've also preyed on kids. The child predators run rampant on these programs. We're not going to let that happen again with AI. So we're going to protect the 4 Cs. David Sachs and his team are working with us on that. They got a little bit of a reality check to the politics of Washington, D.C. And if they want to look, here's the deal. If they want federal preemption, which we're not opposed to federal preemption, we don't want California sabotaging American AI. But if we're going to get federal preemption, we're not going to have amnesty. We're going to have federal rules of the road. If we're going to win the AI race the old-fashioned way, the American way. They say if you want to compete against China, you have to cheat like China, you have to steal like China, you have to have slave labor like China. That's not what we do in America. We're going to win this the American way.
Real quickly, you've been a great guy. By the way, I want everybody to go to Article 3 also to get your article and to keep pressure on your senators, your home state senators, and your representatives. This thing's not over yet. Pound into this today. Also, maybe tomorrow we'll be talking about maybe calling the White House, but just hold off on that. Just do your job on Capitol Hill for today. May have to expand that tomorrow. Real quickly, you have said, hey, look, South Florida, this U.S. attorney, I know this guy's good. I'm hearing all kind of great stuff, grand jury, they're getting organized, coming down on this. Real quickly, what has to happen in Minneapolis? This situation, I'm telling you, and this is the key that picks a lock on so much of this that's going on. We got about a minute. This thing's out of control in Minneapolis. What would you recommend to the president and to Pam Bondi about that situation?
You're talking about the Somali fraud, I presume, in Minneapolis?
Yes,
Or which
yes.
one are we? I mean,
Yes.
you never know
No,
in Minneapolis.
the fraud.
Yeah,
The fraud, Tim Walz, yep.
We have so much fraud in Minneapolis. $1 billion in state money is going to these Somali crooks, and they're sending it back to their Somali warlords to fight terrorism. We need to get these Somalians the hell out of America. They do not share our values. These are third world. This is third world trash we've imported into America, and they are ripping us off. We need to expel as many of them as possible, arrest as many of them as possible. We're not going to turn the United States of America into a Somali hellhole. Get them the hell out of the United States of America. They need to go, and so do the Afghans.
I need everyone to go to Article 3 and do it now. Mike Davis, thank you so much, Viceroy. We'll see you later. Thank you, brother. Article 3 project. Go hit it right now. Next hour, we're honored to have both Ryan Grimm and Raw Egg Nationalists join us in the War Room.